Greetings, our dear children. The last time we stopped to tell you that the energy of extraterrestrial separation invaded your peaceful and happy lives, disturbed your harmony and peace, changed your consciousnesses and started a new stage in the history of humanity, the life of duality. To consolidate their positions and fully take over the human spirits, the Draconians performed a unique operation, creating reptilian creatures that were similar to humans. Before that, they carried out their plans by influencing people through telepathy and implanting separation programs in their minds, because now they had the opportunity to assimilate into people and even have offspring in common. This was done very gradually, because people intuitively felt that these beings did not have a soul, therefore they avoided them. But using all kinds of sophisticated tricks, the Draconians managed to enter into marital relationships with people and began to have children. Why were they so determined to have children with humans and not other reptilians like themselves? It was very important to them that creatures increasingly similar to humans appeared on Earth, and then gradually seized all the riches of the planet, which in turn would give them money and power. They understood perfectly that they were different from the average man and that they needed a costume. They knew that reptilians born of mixed marriages would be almost indistinguishable from humans, and that this would allow them to carry out their plans. However, not all children born to mixed marriages were reptilian. If the mother or father were highly spiritual people, the spark of God in them always prevailed, therefore, a human being was born. If they were materialistic people, whose interests were limited to the three-dimensional world, the reptilian seed was stronger. Often, humans and reptilians were born in the same mixed family, because the spiritual state of the parents was modified due to the changing conditions of life. So how did the enslavement program of the Draconians through their reptilian minions work on Earth? This civilization is installed in an astral plane very close to planet Earth, and in its language it would be described as a technocratic world. Like a great computer, they stored a database of all their representatives on Earth, skillfully guided their consciousnesses by sending pulses of energy to carry out certain tasks. All of these tasks were practical in nature, intended to seize the finances and power of the world. As a clan, their conspiracy of silence became Earth in their letter of introduction. They clearly divided everyone between theirs and ours, and people responded in kind, intuitively rejecting these greedy, practical and materialistic people. People perceived their spiritual emptiness, the lack of the spark of God in them, even sometimes they could not understand why they felt it. During many centuries of coexistence, a small layer of reptilians appeared that wanted to look more like people. And they did everything possible to free themselves from the Draconian program imposed on them, to go to meet spirituality. These reptiloids perceived the beauty and strength of the soul that is part of God, and they also wanted to become these gods and goddesses. If this wish was sincere and came from the heart, they were granted a soul and transformed into a true human being. However, these cases were rare exceptions to the rule. The Second Coming of Christ Part V. The First Coming of Christ. Now we will continue our story on the history of mankind. We will talk about how and why the technogenic civilization of the Draconians, which does not have a divine origin, was able to subjugate the god-men who live on Earth and make them live according to its rules and laws. To better understand how the slavery mechanism initiated by them worked, imagine the soul of man as a bird, and the reptiloids as bird hunters. They knew that there were many types of birds with their respective unique tastes, habits and characteristics. They had a special approach to each species, which allowed them to develop a precise pattern of slavery, and included all kinds of bribery, flattery, blackmail, and intimidation. But his most important and beloved weapon was his depersonalization of humans program. They dreamed of creating beings similar to themselves, obedient and soulless slaves, who would obey their orders. They almost achieved it through implants in human society, from stereotypes of thoughts and behaviors artificially created by them. They also created laws that would keep people in fear and obedience. and would impose on them a false value system that would divert them from their spiritual path and make them worship money and power. But despite all their efforts and systematic work, they were not successful in killing the divine spark in the soul of man, and this enraged them. My dear ones, this was the reason for the persecution, torture and torment of all the great souls, who tried to free themselves from the cages and traps placed by the reptilians, and who tried to guide and lead others, to help them remember their divine origin, and to feel your own greatness and power. These people performed miracles by the power of their spirit. Their memory has lived and continues to live in people throughout human history. Of course, the deepest mark in its history has been left by our beloved Yeshua, who is better known as Jesus Christ. But who is he really? Why has your name become so dear to many of you? Why do they associate it with God? This is the reason why we have wanted to start a story about him and his life, without the distortions and lies that have developed over the last millennia around his name. We want them to finally learn the truth, which will not only not minimize their achievements, but will, on the contrary, lift them to an even greater height. At the same time, he will not place him on a pedestal, but will bring him closer to you, because you will understand that he was one of his own. He was a man who came to life in a difficult time on earth. He had a unique mission to serve people, and he fulfilled it with great honor. From the beginning he was put in difficult circumstances, because he was born into a very poor family. His parents, Mary and Joseph, came to earth from other parts of Judea and were strangers there. They were Syrians by birth. They were discriminated against by the Jews, and they could not even legally marry, due to their different faith. Yeshua, her only and very dear son, was born out of wedlock, which was a great shame at the time. Because of this, Maria and Jose had to lead a nomadic life, hiding under different names and earning a living through heavy physical labor. Jose worked as a shoemaker and Maria was a laundress. But despite the difficulties of life, love and harmony reigned in their family, and their son grew up as a beautiful, kind, intelligent and curious child, which made them happy. When Yeshua was 14 years old, his parents sent him to the Essence sect to be his mentors. By then, Mary and Joseph had become very close to the Essence and entrusted their beloved son to them. It was there, on the shores of the Dead Sea, that Yeshua received his first spiritual knowledge, which later helped him fulfill his mission, for which he came to earth. The Second Coming of Christ Part 6. The Essenians. Now we will tell you about Yeshua's youthful years, which laid the foundation for his future spiritual growth. But first we have to explain to you who the Essenes were. At that time, they were called members of sects, hermits, dissenters, fanatics, etc. In reality, they were great initiates who came to earth with the mission of bringing divine knowledge to people, to teach them to live in accordance with the universal laws, and not with the regulations imposed on humans by the reptilians. Of course, they did not choose the land of Judea by chance, since it was where everyone worshipped a golden calf. Since money was an object of veneration that allowed the reptilians to feel themselves the masters of life. The strengths of the Essenes were not the same, and the people could not understand their message, as their consciousnesses were intoxicated by the new values imposed by the reptilians. At that time, the reptiloids succeeded in placing their own people in all branches of power, and felt responsible for the land of Judea. Thus, all the Essenes could do was earn a piece of land, the rockiest, most barren, and difficult to cultivate, one that no one else wanted, to begin living as a commune isolated from the rest of the world. Fortunately for the Essenes, the reptiloids did not feel that they, these otherworldly beings, posed any danger to them, so they did not take them seriously. Thus, they did not physically destroy them, and the Essenes were able to impart to people the divine knowledge they possessed. They wrote what they knew on pieces of papyrus, which they carefully concealed in their caves on the shores of the Dead Sea. Despite the most difficult living conditions, the municipality of the Essence was the prototype of the cities of light, because love and unity reigned there. Everyone did their favorite jobs there. People did not think first of themselves, but of others and of humanity as a whole. How, for example, how you could impart your eternal knowledge to people, to help them find harmony, teaching them to live according to the universal laws. As they could not openly preach his teachings, the Essence prayed and meditated a lot, to send the powerful energies of light and love to the world. For the sake of their faith and service, they gave up many things, did not allow themselves to have families and children, were vegetarians, and rejected many other earthly pleasures. With very little they were happy, because they knew that this was the choice of their souls, therefore, that was their selfless devotion and service. They accepted Yeshua as their own soul. They immediately felt in this young man his enormous spiritual potential. It seemed to them that he already possessed all the knowledge that they transmitted to him from birth. He learned everything very easily, quickly and naturally, and accepted it with everything in your heart. They soon discovered who this incredible young man was, in fact, that fate had brought him to him. During one of the meditations, one of the elders of the commune received information from the higher powers that Yeshua had to play the main role in the awakening of the divine consciousness of the people, and for that to happen, he was destined to sacrifice his life for it. The higher powers asked the Essence to take care of Yeshua and give him shelter when he needed it, and throughout his life they responded to this request from the higher forces. We will continue to expand this story. We are your absolute Father and the Mother of the universe, and we love you without measure. We have spoken to you through MAAMA.